Turn the lights back on. Wow. Retro Electro Tech. When real audio ruled the world.
Greetings once again, everyone. This is Ernest with Retro Electro Tech, and here I have a customer's Studio Standard by Fisher, and more specifically a model RS 2002 35 watt receiver from, I believe, the mid 80s if memory serves me right. And I just want to mention that because I'm accustomed to working at more of a restoration and preservation level on many of the pieces of gear that customers bring to me, it's a habit, to pad all the surfaces of my bench that the unit is likely to come into contact with when I'm moving things around. And in this case, I'm all completed, so I just have it sitting stationary. It's not being moved around, so there's no padding sitting under it or whatever the case. But also too, I in a lot of cases do wear white cotton gloves. Well, they don't have to be white, but the point is it's just to avoid skin oils getting on the surface of the dial face and the panel here, which could be clean. But once again, if I can avoid more work than need be, I will. And it's just respectful, in my opinion, to treat everybody's equipment as such. One thing I wanted to mention before I do move on is in regard to padding and gloves and all that. In this situation here, this is a very, very fine specimen of a RS 2002, and it's just about mint. So, that just needs to be taken into consideration once again. So, moving on. This receiver came to me with some very noisy and badly diminished audio. In fact, I thought initially the main amp section was sucking wind and getting ready to throw in the towel. So, especially considering, and let me zoom in, this receiver is equipped with one of these Fancy Pants STK 043 power amp ICs, which was all well and good when they were young and healthy, but nowadays, and depending on the wear and tear of a particular receiver, these are common points of failure, along with electrolytics and so forth. Also, these haven't been in production for decades now, so most of what is available are cheap China knockoffs that come with wishful thinking and a fortune cookie. So I wouldn't dare install one of those in a customer's receiver. I'd much rather take a chance with an original pulled from another unit, and maybe it would prove to be a real dandy. Anyways, after a little inspection and some down and dirty preliminary diagnostics, I isolated the bulk of the problem to the tuning condenser here, and also to the remaining controls and pots and switches and all that needed cleaning and relubrication as well. I did notice under a little magnification, especially with my eyes being or not being what they used to be, there was some discoloration. Let me try to not get my hand in the way. There was some discoloration along the rotor shaft here, and some buildup of impurities, for lack of a better term, in these sections, all in here. Okay, but considering everything is in very nice shape, I didn't feel I'd have to pull the condenser unit out of this thing, of course, unless there would have been a bunch of rust, oxidation, or physical damage, like you commonly see with antique radios that lived at the bottom of a swamp or something for 50 years. But now if that was the case, I'd have to dive in with both feet, budget permitting, and pull the condenser, break out the chemicals, and run it through probably multiple cycles in the ultrasonic cleaner, among other things. Not to mention after manipulating the condenser and so forth, it would have to be obviously reinstalled, and there'd have to be considerations to proper mechanical alignment of things and a full bore FM alignment that would need to be performed, of course, after the fact. So I was able to precisely clean what needed to be cleaned just using a very fine brush and absent of any lint or debris, of course, and a very controlled application of some quality contact cleaner and which I transfer into a bottle like this sometimes, and that has a needle tip that allows careful application, precise application. And what I'll do, usually I'll take one of these like little tech wipes, or you can use a paper towel, whatever the case, and when I'm applying what I need to apply, the amount I need to apply, before I come up with the tip, I'll just kind of meet underneath, kind of dab off any excess, carry over. It's hard for me to demonstrate the angle because, I got the camera in the way and all that, but obviously I would come around and then bring my tip into position, catch any excess, same thing, bring my tip into position, and so forth. You get the point. But it's all about careful application. You just don't want to drop any excess solvent down between the rotor plates, and you just need to move slow. You don't want to be banging things around. You don't want to knock these rotor plates around, bend anything, and just disturb the mechanical alignment, of course. So also too, sometimes I'll just use the actual tip of the brush itself. I'll transfer some solvent, whatever I'm using for a particular application, and just dip into like a cap that I transfer some solvent in, or a small container, whatever. And same thing, just bring it into position, kind of drop the solvent in place. Same thing, use my wipe and just catch any excess on the tip, dip and just hold the wipe underneath, and then bring it into position and just drop it in. And then let everything soak in, and while everything's soaking in too, I obviously rotate the rotor plates, and fully mesh them up, and bring them all the way over, and so forth and so on, and just keep doing that, just working them. So essentially I'm working that rotor shaft and allowing the contact cleaner to really work its way in, and and just do that over and over again until your fingers and wrists are burning and you're ready to tap out and cry uncle. But again, you just really have to be careful not to disturb the spacing of the rotor plates, or knock anything else out of mechanical alignment, etc., all that. So in this particular case, I was able to reestablish function with the cleaning method that I briefly pointed out. And also too, of course, I think it's obvious that once I get the the contact cleaner in there and let it soak in, I'll use the brush, and very gingerly, and just take my time, and just kind of scrub what I can, and remove any crud or whatever the case, oxidation, a little bit of oxidation, crud or whatever. So hence the reason for the brush, not only to just apply some solvent, but to use it for that purpose as well. And like I said, I was able to reestablish function with that cleaning method, as well as a multi-step cleaning of pots and switches. Okay, I just wanted to point out too that because I'm just doing a little bit of cleaning of this tuning condenser in place, I always like to lay down some lint-free material, again, like these little tech wipes, and just sort of tuck them where I need to tuck them very carefully without disturbing any of the components. And if I can slip such a wipe or paper towel, whatever the case, underneath what I'm going to be applying solvent to, then I do so. I kind of just build a little dam of material around the area to control any spillage, if there was any excess, just something absorbent, so that the solvent doesn't start running wild on the board. So I just kind of wanted to point that out as well. Okay, so in closing, I'm just going to power it up, tune across the FM band, and demonstrate that it is functioning based on the process I went through with resolving that issue with the tuning condenser, getting these controls and these pots and switches all squared away. Like I said before, the noise was really bad, and the audio was very diminished. And I'm also in an area where I have very poor reception. Even my receiver in the shop, my own receiver, it has a hard time pulling in stations, even with a little dipole antenna. And I haven't really had the opportunity to set up any any good and proper antennas for testing on the test bench, because this is a fairly new building for me that I moved my shop into, and I just haven't got around to it. I'm so busy, but you'll get the point. I'm going to tune across, and pardon all the bad reception. That's just how it is. But I believe the customer is in an area where he pulls in stations a heck of a lot better, and there's more activity on the FM band. So let's go ahead and get to it. Let me go ahead and get her going. Yeah, normally I don't even pull these stations in at all, really, or with a lot of noise. So not too bad, all things considered. Yeah, this little stretch here is a crappy little stretch in terms of reception. A little scratchy, but it's
B98.5. Wrapping up that set with one of my Dr. Free. Heritage Landscaping is a full-service landscaping.
Baby, it's pure love, milk and honey and Captain Crunch, and you in the morning.
country station pulls in pretty good.
Pure love, baby, it's pure.
There's our balance.
99 and 44, 100% pure.
Like I said, so you get the point. Yeah, before it was really, really bad. So, you know, it's working 100% better, obviously. It's functional. And like I said, once the customer gets it down to his area and gets his antenna hooked up and all that stuff, everything will probably be right on par. Anyways, also too, there really wasn't the budget for me to go in and do a full bore FM alignment and peak everything absolutely perfect. So if for some reason there's any issues down the road with reception, it needs to be peaked. That's something that can be resolved at a later date when budget permits and all that, but I think it's going to be just fine. And anyways, mission accomplished, and thank you for viewing. This was primarily produced for the customer so he can see what was done to resolve the situation. And but for those of you, of course, that like to follow along, and if there's any tips you were able to, you know, pull from it, fine. But this wasn't intended to be instructional content. I don't feel that it has that type of detail. And you know, there's other people that do a really fine job doing that. I'm not really wired for that, no pun intended. That's kind of not my thing. But anyways, till next time, you guys all take care of yourself.
This is a poor man's shoe production.